The FEMA plans to imprison American citizens have generated a lot of interest around the country in locating the potential prison camps throughout the country, or facilities that have other uses but which could be quickly used to detain large numbers of people, such as this Amtrak facility in Beech Grove, Indiana. All of these apparent security measures are particularly unusual here, because this is a very low crime area, and this facility is nothing but an old train repair station with nothing in it worth stealing. In this portion of the parking lot is a brick building, suitable for processing, next to a gate that leads right out to the railroad tracks, and all of this is contained inside a fully fenced area, now 3 layers deep in fencing at this point. This U.S. Air Force train indicates federal and military involvement. Facing the opposite direction, you can see that this area, too, is a very large fenced area with railroad track running the length of the fence and plenty of warehouses. This small building is the only way into a particular fenced area. Inside this building, we see more of the motion-activated detectors, electronic turnstiles, and prison bars. Outside this building is fencing and a cattle run section of fence, all topped by barbed wire, pointing inward, not to keep people out, but to keep people in. On the other side of the building, you'll see signs that say Red Zone, right up next to the railroad tracks that run the length of the fenced area. Next to the Red Zone sign, you can see closely numbered markers on the fences that are too closely spaced to be parking markers, just as if they plan to have people line up to board the trains. Looking around, you can get an idea of how huge this place is and how many people it could contain in its fenced-in area. In yet another fenced area, we see a large warehouse building at the end, with the electronic turnstiles in front of it. The building is one that has a new concrete floor, and its doors and windows have all been blocked. Outside, there are new gas pipes. Even as we were filming, a black helicopter flew over us, observing what we were doing, which has happened many times when we have been at the facility. The gas lines and gas pipes at the facility run the length of the buildings. And come out at some very, very large, brand new furnaces that have been installed at the buildings throughout the facility.
Those who are in hell will be so stripped of every good. They will be seen for what they are. Everything good about them will be taken from them. What they seem to have, they will no longer have. Every bit of common grace that was bestowed upon them will be withdrawn. They will be seen to be the horrible, detestable creatures they are.
And so, here's this man, and he's burning in hell. He's pretty much given up on the fact of ever getting out, you know, after about, well, for sure more than 1,000 years have gone by. Over 1,000 years, because he's gone through the whole rest of history and through all the events of the book of Revelation, the whole millennial reign of Christ for 1,000 years. He's been languishing in hell this whole time. He didn't see this coming. I mean, he'd long ago given up. Now, he's been in hell for over 1,000 years, but it even seemed like longer than that. Which, we can't even fathom these numbers. I mean, think about how long we've been alive. None of us even knows what 1,000 years is. None of us can comprehend that. Or let alone 1,000 years in hell. But suddenly, out of the blue, here he is. He's burning in hell. He's given up completely. He's probably, what's he doing in hell? You know, the only thing there is to do, think. That's all you can do in hell is just think. Just remember. And I believe he's probably just replaying his life over and over in his mind. Just to pass this, to do something. Starting from the time he's born, all the way till he dies, just remembering his life. Just scene by scene, act by act, living out, reliving his life in his mind. And I bet something keeps coming up in his mind every time you ever heard anything about Jesus. Every time you heard anything about hell. Anytime you ever heard anything about the gospel. Anytime you ever sat in a church service. Anytime you ever read a Bible verse. Anytime you ever heard somebody quote a verse. And the Bible has become part of our society in many ways, our culture. And you'll hear verses. You'll hear people make statements that are from the Bible, out and about. People have heard the verse, Jesus wept, or I heard somebody say one time, he was like on a political type talk show, he said, "Let not your heart be troubled." But he was talking about something completely different. Of course, that's just quoting Jesus. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God. You believe on. People speak and they talk about, render unto Caesar the things that would be Caesar. But he's probably thinking about every time he heard the Word of God, verses about Jesus, the Bible, God. Maybe somebody knocked on his door at some point and he said, "I'm sorry, I've got to watch the game. The Phoenix Suns are on right now. It's into overtime. I can't talk right now." And he's saying to himself, "Oh God, why? Why didn't I listen?" And he's replaying in his mind over and over again.
Verse 15 of chapter 10 of Matthew. "Assuredly I say unto you," Jesus said, "it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for this city." So what Jesus is saying there is even in hell there are levels of tolerability. For those who have grown up under the gospel, hearing it, seeing it lived out in front of them, having it printed before them, it will be infinitely more horrible and excruciating to have that much awareness of how much you knew of God and never embraced Him than for the person who is in hell, not because they rejected Jesus Christ, but because they're a sinner. Remember, no one goes to hell because they didn't hear about Jesus. Everyone goes to hell because they're a sinner. We're all born sinners, and we demonstrate that.